Thursday night, Krug Show. Sterling Bennett is back in the house. Are the Niners a contender or are they a pretender? Let's get into it right now. Off and running Thursday night on the Krug Show. Sterling Bennett is in the house. Love Thursday nights on the stream. And we are off and running. Brought to you by Pig and a Pickle. The best barbecue in all of Northern California is Pig and a Pickle. Check them out. They're in Emeryville. They're in Corte Madera. They're open 7 days a week from 11 a.m. till 8 p.m. or until they run out. And they do run out. So get there early. Get some brisket chili. Join us at Pig and a Pickle on December 7th. We'll have our Krug Show meet and greet during the bye week. I'll be there throughout the day on Sunday during the bye week. Stop by, have some brisket, have a beer, have a root beer, have something, and say hello. Well, we're just going to be kind of a very informal kind of open house meet and greet on December 7th for all Krug Show fans at Pig and a Pickle. There in Corte Madera. Not the one in Emeryville, the one in Corte Madera. Will be there all day. So check us out on December 7th. Sterling, good to see you, man. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. We saw a rather fun Thursday night football game, and now we have Brock Purdy, Ricky Pearsall back in the fray for San Francisco. So looking forward to Week 11 for the San Francisco 49ers.
You know, for those who didn't watch the Thursday nighter, the Patriots win 27-14 over the Jets at Foxborough. Not necessarily a surprise because the Patriots are a good football team, but New England is 9-2. 9-2 New England, 4-2 at home. Drake May, 25 of 34, 281. He had a touchdown, no interceptions. He was sacked once. They ran for only 2.4 a carry. And yet they still won. Stephon Diggs, 9 catches for 105 yards. Travion Henderson scored a receiving touchdown. He was also their leading rusher. And the Patriots, who have a really kind of an underrated defense, win the game over the Jets. The Jets are bad, of course. The Jets are, phoning it in now, rebuilding. Justin Fields is just not very good. He threw for 116 yards, 1 touchdown. Fields also had 67 yards rushing and a touchdown. So not a bad fantasy day, I guess, for Fields overall, but 27-14. Is New England for real? Why don't we, before we get into the Niners, do you believe in the Patriots? Are the Patriots a legitimate Super Bowl contender in the AFC?
I mean, they got the quarterback play. I think Drake May looks like the next, I don't want to say elite guy, but of that quarterback class that was him, Caleb Williams, and Jaden Daniels, he looks like the best one through a couple of years now. Vrabel has the defense playing good. They've beaten the Bills already once this year, and I wouldn't be shocked to see him do it again. Now, their schedule probably has favored them in some cases, but the AFC doesn't really have like the dominant dude or the dominant team just yet. The Ravens are on the come up for sure, but the Chiefs are kind of floundering. They're there, but they aren't, the Chiefs of old just yet. The Chargers are good, but who are they? The Broncos are also good, but they kind of been getting away with some losses that should have been this year. But I think they're for real. Now, how far can they go? I don't know, but it's really hard to say the Patriots are not one of, if not the best team in the AFC so far this year.
They've won 8 in a row.
Yeah,
8 in a row. They started off 1-2, and now they're 9-2. I mean, it's just an incredible run. They've already beaten Buffalo. Buffalo doesn't have Ed Oliver. Suddenly, Buffalo doesn't look quite as good.
Yeah.
New England, I think, might be better than Buffalo. It's unbelievable. So you have New England, you have Buffalo, you have who knows in the North, and then the Colts look like they're going to win the South, and then Denver, Chargers, Chiefs, all in the AFC West. So those are your contenders in the AFC. I think New England could beat anybody.
Yeah,
I really do. I mean, they won't be favored necessarily, but I think it's a really good young secondary. Christian Gonzalez is a good player. They've got, the Patriots made interesting moves too. They traded Keon White away. They traded Duggar away to the Steelers. Yeah. They didn't, not only did they not get a lot of help, they actually divested themselves of some of their talent for additional picks. So this is Ron Wolf's son, right? Isn't this Elliot Wolf, the GM there?
Yes, that sounds right.
And hiring Vrabel just sounded like that sounded like just a hand to glove fit, right?
Yeah.
Because he's got the history with the team. Really solid coach. And it's worked out. I mean, it's worked out. They drafted the right quarterback. They hired the right coach. They're back on the beam. They're right there. They're 5-0 on the road. I mean, they're playing really, really well. So, I mean, amazing. New England Patriots. Who saw it? I thought they had a good draft and were kind of on the comeback trail, but this is an accelerated bounce back. I did not expect.
Yeah, I wouldn't be shocked if like their true Super Bowl contendership is not 1 year away. Like next year's draft comes along and they have the quarterback in year 3 and they had this amazing roster around him, and maybe they'll spend some money in free agency on a receiver or whatnot. But Traven Henderson looks awesome in their backfield. Like they have a good crop of young guys on the roster, and I think for all the Stephon Diggs kind of dissing there was during the preseason, he looks awesome for them with Drake May. So they've made almost every right move you could do for a young team trying to contend. And, they've made the Bills look bad through, 11 games so far this year. So it's working out there in Gillette Stadium with Vrabel and company. And I think, I don't know how good they're going to be come playoff time, but they have every right to feel themselves walking into the second half of the year and think they can become something once the playoffs come around.
Wouldn't that be something if the Patriots went to the Super Bowl? All right. So we titled this stream, Are the Niners Contenders with Brock Purdy's return, or are the 49ers, are they real contenders or are they more pretenders? Bleacher Report went through and they had a few teams that they kind of were debating this question. Are they contenders or are they pretenders? The Niners are one of those teams. So we'll go with the other ones first and then we'll get to the Niners. We'll start with the Steelers. What do you think? Are the Steelers contenders or pretenders? They've lost 3 out of 4. Rodgers is looking skittish in the pocket for sure. They got overmatched in week 10 by the Chargers. The defense which is supposed to be really, really good, has been kind of a major disappointment. We've never seen Mike Tomlin ever have a losing season. Are the Steelers contenders or pretenders? I'm going to say pretenders. I expected them to fade because their schedule gets really tough. And I think the fade continues. I think Rodgers is pointing fingers. The chemistry's bad. The defense is overrated. It's got some big names, but it's not that great. I think they're pretenders.
Yeah, I don't think they have the offensive firepower to hang with most teams in the AFC. Like when you think about, can you keep up with quarterbacks like Mahomes and like Lamar Jackson, Drake May, guys like that, Josh Allen, where your best wide receiver is DK Metcalf, and then you have Calvin Austin III, and maybe it's Roman Wilson back there. It just doesn't really bode well for the Steelers. And Rodgers looks like he's 41 years old right now, and some guys can push off Father Time, but it's inevitable. It does happen. So I think they'll be somewhat competitive. They always are. Mike Tomlin is the even keel guy. Give me average and maybe a little bit above that. But when the grander scheme conversation takes place, I think they're one of the fakest teams that somehow have found their way in the wild card race so far in the AFC.
Yeah, I think this roster that the Steelers have is somewhat eroding, and they don't have the right guy at quarterback, and they haven't had the right mix there. Just there's something about that situation that seems a little stale, and I'm not sure exactly why, but not just because of Rodgers. Also, just seems like Tomlin is stagnated there. Yeah, he hasn't had a losing season, but they also haven't had a playoff win since in about 10 years. So I would say they're pretenders. How about Buffalo? Let me make the argument. I think a lot of people want to say, oh, they're contenders, but I think they're pretenders. The weapons are totally ordinary. The defense is nothing special. They just lost Ed Oliver. New England's got a 1.5 game lead in the AFC East coming into tonight. I don't believe in their defense, and I don't believe in their weapons. And this is exactly where we left this story last year when they weren't good enough. And I don't think anything's changed. So I'm going to say the Buffalo Bills might have an awesome quarterback that everybody loves, but they're not legit Super Bowl contenders. They are pretenders.
Yeah, I think the Bills are contenders only for the wild card. I don't think they are a contender for a Super Bowl. Josh Allen's great. James Cook, when he's on, he's on. But the Bills always find themselves in the middle of the year not really having an answer to things that are going wrong for them. I don't know if you caught Sean McDermott's post-game press conference, but he also felt like he didn't know what was happening, of like, we don't know what's going on and don't know how to fix it. And it's like, well, that's not what you want to hear from your head coach when your team is losing to the Miami Dolphins. So they don't feel directionless, but they do feel like they don't really know who's kind of commanding the ship out there. I would take it a step further and say if they don't go to the Super Bowl in this window, I think McDermott might get fired. Like, I really wouldn't be shocked there.
Wow.
Like, how much failure can you have knowing that Mahomes is having a down year with KC, and or at least KC's having a down year, and now all of a sudden the Patriots are beating you on the road in prime time? Like, you can't have that happen. So I would take it a step further and say they're not only pretenders, that McDermott's seat, I think, is actually one of the most underrated hot seats in football this season.
I think that's a great observation by you. Let's move to the NFC with a couple other teams. How about the division leading Chicago Bears at 6-3? Are they contenders or are they pretenders?
That one's tough because they seemingly find a way at the end of every game to make a run and push back. And yeah, they've kind of squeaked by the Giants last Sunday because, Dable kicks a field goal and Jackson Dart gets hurt and everything. And I don't know if I'm truly bought into what they're selling me. I don't really believe in Caleb just yet. And I like Ben Johnson a ton, but that defense, they're losing some pieces. The turnovers have taken a turn for them. I think they're pretenders. I think the schedule's pretty tough for them. I think they're not as good as teams like the Packers, like the Lions. I think they're a wild card team, at least in that conversation. But in regards to the bigger players of the NFL and the NFC, probably not. No,
they're pretenders. It's almost it's middle November. They don't even have a single win in the division. Okay. When you don't have a win in the division and you're beyond Halloween and now you're approaching Thanksgiving, they're also negative point differential. So are the Niners, but I don't believe in Caleb. I really don't. I think he's very wildly inconsistent. I think this team is got some interesting talent. I like some of the things that Ryan Poles has done. He's definitely improved the roster from where they were a few years ago, but
yeah.
No, you gotta be able to, when you can't win in the division, like Bears Lions Sunday, who do you like? I like the Lions. Bears Packers Sunday, who do you like? I like the Packers. Bears Vikings Sunday. You know what? I probably still like the Vikings. It's like, especially if it's in Minnesota. So it's like I don't feel good about the Bears head to head in their division, and the negative point differential and the inconsistency at quarterback. And their weapons are very young. Colston Loveland's playing really well now. But I mean, Monangai has been good, but I mean, they just have a lot of young weapons, and a young quarterback and a defense that's not very good that I thought was going to be quite a bit better. So I'm going to say pretenders. I think Steelers pretenders, Bills pretenders, Bears pretenders. Or how about Jaguars? Are the Jaguars pretenders? Or are they contenders? That Jacksonville is 5-4. They're in second place behind Indianapolis in the AFC South. They're 3-2 at home, 2-2 on the road, 3-2 in conference, 1-1 in the division. They're also a negative point differential, -15. Jaguars have some interesting talent on defense, especially. What do you think? Contenders or pretenders?
Yeah, I think if Brian Thomas Jr. wasn't having this terrible sophomore slump and maybe Travis Hunter was out there and playing football on either side for them, I might buy into what they're selling me. But I think, like their head coach, they're front runners. I don't think they actually could contend in the AFC. They just blew like a 20-point fourth quarter lead against the Texans last weekend. I don't like Trevor Lawrence. I don't think he's that good. I think that Jacksonville has some trouble. If they can't run the football, they're not going to win games. That defense is strong, but how far can that carry you when you're playing Allen and Lamar and Mahomes, all those guys? I don't believe Jacksonville is a contender whatsoever. So another pretender to our list.
Yeah, I mean, If you say, are they a contender or pretender? I mean, they're life and death to beat the Raiders a couple weeks
Yeah.
ago. I mean, it was just like when they played a really good Rams team, they lost 35-7. When they played a really pretty good Seahawks team, they lost 20-12. They lost to Kansas City. They lost to the Niners. Or no, I guess they beat the Niners.
It beat San Francisco.
They beat the Niners. Actually, they beat Kansas City. They beat Kansas City and they beat the Niners. That's it.
Yeah.
But they lost the Bengals. That's who it was. They lost to the Bengals, the Seahawks, the Rams, and then they just lost to the Texans. So I don't know. I Jacksonville, I would say, because I don't believe in Trevor Lawrence. I say they're a pretender. How about the Broncos? Are the Broncos a contender or a pretender? My first thought would be, oh yeah, they're absolutely a contender. But then they're another team, Sterling, that they barely beat the Raiders. They barely beat the Texans. They beat Dallas pretty good, but they barely came back and beat the Giants. I mean, they barely beat the Jets. I mean, they've got some good wins. They've got a good record, but Denver has, the offense is weak. They don't score points. Bo Nix looked really bad against the Raiders. It's not a strong offensive team. It's even though Sean Payton is there, you would think they'd be better in offense. It's like they're a pretty good defensive team, but then their offense is kind of hit and miss. What do you think? Are the Broncos a contender?
I really want to buy into the Broncos on paper, right? They have a really good defense. A lot of former Niners are on that team. Hufanga, Greenlaw, DJ Jones. I love Sean Payton. Obviously, he's won a Super Bowl and been one of the better head coaches of the last 20 years or so. And like on paper, it's like, yes, like I want to buy into that. And I think the Broncos are contenders, but it's really based on who they get in the playoffs. Like if they're playing the Colts, I'd pick Denver over Indianapolis.
They're a really good home team. Denver's always been a really good home team, and I think they're undefeated at home this year.
And I think like that to me just like depends. Like if you're getting Kansas City, I think I might pick Kansas City. If you're getting, I don't know, like let's say the Patriots, or let's say a team like maybe a surging, I don't know, you throw a name out there. Like it just feels like that the Broncos are like their contender. Like label is dependent on who they play in the playoffs. And so I guess that kind of in a way makes me a pretender in that route. Because if you're dependent on something and you aren't a true contender, you're probably a pretender, right?
Yeah. I mean, this little exercise, you know what it's led me to? It's led me to the conclusion that it's either going to be Mahomes and the Chiefs, or it's going to be the Chargers kind of bludgeoning you, with as far as they're really beat up. Like a beat-up Chargers team, the Chiefs, or the upstart Patriots. I mean, if you're like me and you don't believe in Buffalo, you don't believe in Pittsburgh, and if I don't believe in Pittsburgh, I really don't believe in Baltimore, Cincinnati, or Cleveland in that division. I don't really believe that much in the Colts because of Daniel Jones. I don't believe in the Jaguars because of Trevor Lawrence. I don't believe in the Texans because their offense stinks. I don't really believe in the Broncos that much because their offense stinks. So what's left? It's like you got the Chiefs, the Chargers, and the Patriots. What do you think? If you were in Vegas right now, who would you put on? And I said, here's $100. You got to put it on an AFC team to win the Super Bowl. Who are you going to put it on?
Whew. Is it wrong that I just feel like the Ravens are going to have this big surge in the next 2 months? Like their defense is playing better. Lamar Jackson's back, and I get they don't have this overwhelmingly strong roster, but like I just really buy into Lamar Jackson. John Harbaugh's a heck of a coach, and I think they got in their own way a lot of times. And I think if they can avoid that, I think the AFC is for the taking. I think the Ravens are one of the more underrated teams that, albeit are not, I believe, at 500 yet, could really make a push and be maybe the AFC representative come February.
It's not crazy. It's not crazy at all. How about, I would say Kansas City, but Kansas City's not even 500 in the conference.
Yeah.
They're 1-1 in the division. They're 2-3 in the conference. So I think if I was doing this right now, if I was in Vegas right now, I think I would put my money on the Patriots. Why? Because I think the Chiefs look like a little bit too kind of past their prime, and I think the Chargers are not quite, right with the injuries and
Yeah, they're
everything.
banged up.
They're just a little banged up. The Colts are trying to force it, but that's not really that believable. And I think Buffalo's flawed. I think that whole division in the North is flawed. I think I'd bet the Patriots. I think right now, if I could, I'd bet the Patriots. All right, let's finish this exercise with a couple NFC teams. Packers, contender or pretender? Now, if you had said this to me a month ago, I would have said, oh my God, they're a premium Super Bowl contender. Gutekunst and the depth and the talent and the youth and Parsons and oh my God. Sterling, this thing has fallen off the rails. The Green Bay's chemistry is not good. They have major offensive line issues. Their offense has just been dominated the last 2 weeks by Philadelphia and Carolina. They have an inordinate number of injuries in their wide receiver core, and Tucker Kraft just got tore the ACL. He's done for the year.
Yeah.
So it's like amazing. You look up and like this team that was like looked so awesome. Now they don't look very good offensively. Marcus Golden's hurt. Romeo Dobbs is hurt. Dontavion Wicks is hurt. They've got so many Jaden Reed's hurt. Elgington Jenkins has just been put on IR.
Aaron Banks is terrible. Who would have thought that?
Aaron Banks, who they gave 4 years, $77 million to, is just absolutely terrible. Yeah. Their offense, I mean, to get dominated by Philadelphia at home is bad. It looked really bad, but they get dominated the week before by Carolina. Yeah. So Green Bay. I know Green Bay was like a sheet pick early in the year. Oh, Super Bowl. I get the feeling that Green Bay is feeling. I think the chemistry might not be good there. I mean, I know that sounds wild to say that. They've only played one division game so far, and they're 1-0 in the division. But they've lost 2 in a row. The offense doesn't look good. What do you think? How what do you make of the Packers?
Yeah, I think as the weeks progress, I think, LaFleur will turn things around once they get healthier, and obviously losing Tucker Kraft is a big deal. I think that like their entire offense is centered around getting him the football, and it's a bunch of young receivers: Christian Watson, Dobbs, Reed. You mentioned Wicks and Matthew Golden. Like it's a lot of young guys, and nobody is like a true difference maker just yet. And they lost their only one. They have Josh Jacobs, but the running game's been kind of stymied because the offensive line's not been good. I do think they'll figure things out down the stretch, but when you have teams like the Lions and you have teams like the Rams and you have teams maybe like the Seattle Seahawks, or I don't know, you go to the Buccaneers who aren't having a good year, but they're also banged up and they're finally getting healthy again. Like with Chris Godwin, Mike Evans will come back soon, and Bucky Irving is on his way back too. Like I think the Packers might be a 6 seed when it's all said and done. And maybe they're kind of like the Broncos where it depends on who they play, but Jordan Love in the playoffs doesn't instill much confidence in me. And that defense, despite having Micah Parsons, like doesn't really have a game record, which is odd to say.
I know, it's crazy. I really thought Packers would look big time right now. Yep. I really thought they were going to be strutting through this year. I thought their depth was great, and it hasn't happened. It has not happened. And then I thought the wide receiver vibe was a little funky. But, a lot of guys, a lot of choices, a lot of even, it's not like there's a real clear pecking order, a lot of youth, a lot of guys with ambition. But everybody wants the same thing. And I don't know, man, it hasn't really come together. All right, let's finish this conversation with Niners. They're 6-4. They're 2-2 at home. They're 4-2 on the road. They're 3-1 in the division. They've got 6 wins in the conference, more than any other team in the league that I can tell. Wait a second. 49ers have 6 wins in the conference. Philly has 6 wins in the conference. That's it. Chargers are 6-1 in the conference. Colts are 6-1 in the conference. So there's a few teams. And it looks like Patriots are 6-2 in the conference. So, I mean, Niners have a really good record in the division, really good record in the conference, but they are also minus 10 in point differential. They have no pass rush. They have young DBs. They got beat up linebackers. It's kind of a circus on defense.
Yeah.
Purdy's coming back, but we don't know how healthy he really is. Pearsall's coming back. Outside of Pearsall, there's no real downfield threat. They can't run the ball. Special teams are always kind of a question mark. What do you think? 49ers. But they do have Purdy, who's been to a Super Bowl. They do have Mac Jones, who's been to a Pro Bowl. They do have Kyle Shanahan and Robert Saleh, guys who have been coaches that have been to a Super Bowl. Robert Saleh was talking today about trying to get his young defense to peak in January. I mean, that's that's what I want to hear him say. I mean, that sounds like we're in it to win it. But they didn't do anything at the deadline, which makes you think that they don't even believe in themselves all that much. What do you think? Contenders or pretenders? This might be, with this whole discussion, this might be the most difficult one.
Yeah, Niners. I think the Niners are probably, of the teams we've talked about, the best coached one. And that's weird to say. Now, they have Saleh, who I think, although there's been some roller coaster rides the last couple of weeks, is still one of the best DCs in football. You have one of the best head coaches and offensive play callers in football. And if Brock Purdy can show a semblance of being healthy on the stretch, I think they're in a good place to go to the wild card. And maybe you can get guys like Yetur Gross-Matos back down the stretch of the season too. And although that may not help a lot, he was one of the best interior pass rushers and kind of age your room as the year goes on. If you were just showing me the offense on paper, I would say yes. Like, that makes a lot of sense. Like, they can be a wild card team. Like, that offense can, pack a punch. Hopefully, at least on paper, they can. Then you turn to the defense. You're like, oh my God. I don't know if you play Matthew Stafford for a third time, he's not going to put up 50 against you. I do believe San Francisco is a pretender. I think they do have a very hard ceiling to how far they can go. However, within being a pretender, I do think that ceiling really is maybe upsetting a team in the first round of the wild card. And that it depends on who they play, obviously, in that. They're not going to beat teams like Detroit or the Rams. But, Sam Darnold come January, what does he look like? And if you're playing in Seattle, what does he look like? I know they beat the Cardinals big time, but that game wasn't very pretty at the end because of him. San Francisco is a pretender, but I think they are a pretender that has the ability to upset somebody in the first round of the playoffs. I
agree. I mean, it's bad live stream when you agree too much, but I agree.
They're going to the Super Bowl, Larry.
I don't know. I can't call them a contender when they have no pass rush, a bunch of young DBs and injured linebackers. And, it's like, you've got what's the guy's name? The linebacker who just Luke Gifford.
Oh, Luke Gifford, yeah.
Playing linebacker and in coverage downfield. That's just not going to work. So I would say I would agree. I would say that as much as I want to say they're contenders, I think I would only really give them what I would call like a puncher's chance.
Exactly. Yeah.
They have a puncher's chance. Now, it's not like you got to beat every single team in the playoffs. You only have to beat the teams that you have to play. Yep. And there's a chance that the matchups could be favorable, especially with the injuries and momentum. The 49ers, just as an organization, expect to play football in December and January. And that expectation alone might get them to kind of raise their level of play because they're used to raising their level of play. I think a lot of it really is determined about Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy was spectacular in training camp. And people would say, well, what do you mean? It was drills and that kind of thing. No, but I'm talking about his ability to move and make really crisp throws and downfield throws and moving the team and in the move the team drills. And he looked really, really good. And then this turf toe hit. And I think that there shouldn't be bringing him back. I think that they should be resting him more. To me, he still looks like his lower body mechanics aren't the same. To me, he still looks like his arm strength is not quite the same. But they're seeing it and they know more about it than I do, and I'll defer to them. They're putting him out there, and now they put him out there against Jacksonville, and I said all week he was throwing high, and sure enough, in the game he threw high passes. His accuracy seems better now, though. His movement, it's all about how much pain can he endure, and when he runs around out there with live bullets, can he somehow not re-aggravate the toe? That to me seems like an impossibility. So yeah. But if somehow Brock Purdy either could put the turf toe behind him, regain that, or block out the pain and regain the form that he had in July in a watered down NFL, that's only going to get more watered down by further injuries between now and the playoffs. Who knows? Who knows if they can get there? I do. Adam Kaplan did an interview the other day with Adam and Derek on KMBR in the afternoon, and he made the point. He said, I normally wouldn't say this, but I really do kind of believe this, that every single team that makes the playoffs in either conference has a legitimate chance to win the Super Bowl. Yeah. And he said in most years you would never say that. And I agree with that kind of assessment. I really do. I mean, we just kind of did that exercise. It's like there's enough flaws in the AFC contenders where somebody could come from off the pack. And there's enough, flaws across the board and interesting teams in the NFC with different strengths and weaknesses that really anybody, if you said to me, I don't know, Seattle made the playoffs and won it all. Okay. I can believe that. If you said, I guess I'd have a hard time with like a Carolina or something like that, but like Seattle, Rams, Niners, Eagles, there's like 6 teams that would be like, hey man, if they made it, I could see them. Detroit, I could definitely see them. So I would say I agree with you. I think they're pretenders for the Super Bowl, but they got a puncher's chance, and a lot of it's determined with how much more offensive momentum can Purdy in this offense generate down the stretch, because the offense is going to have to carry them. Yeah. But weirder things have happened. Now, let's talk a little bit about Purdy coming back. Tom Brady says they're rushing him back. Don't do it. Richard Sherman's like, hey, don't do it. Ride the hot hand. The 49ers are doing something that teams rarely do, and that is they've got a hot player in Jones who just completed 85%. The week before, 79%. Now, he's not driving the ball down the field, but he's completing a very high percentage of his passes. He's playing really well, and he's healthy. And they're going to a player who's had a turf toe that looks like it's been recurring, and there could be a setback. What do you think? I mean, Shanahan was asked, hey, what do you think of all these people saying, this and that? Or I think Lynch might have been asked. And he's like, Lynch is a smart guy. Shanahan's a smart guy. They're like, hey, look, we understand it's, this is the noise around the sport. I mean, guys like Richard Sherman and Tom Brady, they're paid to give their opinions, and that's their opinion. And he's like, we're certainly not listening to their opinions, but we have our own process and our own barometers and our own measuring sticks and so on and so forth. We're hearing it. We're not offended by it, but we don't agree with it, and we're trying to ignore it. What do you think? What's the smarter play here? Is the smarter play to put Brock out there? Is the smarter play to do what Brady and Sherman say, and that's, go with Mac Jones, ride the hot hand? What do you think?
Yeah, I think, obviously you want to be kind of hesitant to rush Purdy back and, hopefully avoid some surgery. I know he said today that that's not on the table currently, and you hope that's the case. I do think if you are going to bring Brock Purdy back and hope there's going to be a stretch run of success for him in the offense to hopefully carry this team to the playoffs, I think this is the time to bring him back. You're playing on natural grass the next 4 weeks, I believe, with the Cardinals, the Panthers at home Monday Night Football. So an extra day of rest for Purdy off his return from a turf toe. Then there's the game against the Browns and Cleveland, albeit you'd rather not have Purdy play against Myles Garrett and company, but that's the way the NFL works. Then it's a bye week, and then you're playing the Titans. I think all 4 of those games are winnable. I think all 4 of those games are against offenses that really shouldn't give the defense too much of a scare. And if the offense can score 26 points, I think they'll be fine. And if they can win 4 more games, they're 10-7, and they're really in a good spot to end the year against the Colts, the Bears, and against the Seahawks, where if you win one of those games, you're 11-6, whatever it is. Like, you're in a really good spot there too. Now, I do want to ask you this because I believe Purdy has a higher ceiling than Mac Jones. I don't think Mac Jones, although is playing really good football, I don't think he gives much to the offense or as much as Purdy can, whether it's mobility or just the playmaking style that Purdy has. I think Purdy will take shots downfield, but you've been at practice. My big concern rushing Purdy back or having him come back at all this year, it's going to be a concern no matter what, is if he can't plant, those quick out throws to the sideline may get airballed, may be inaccurate. Can he make those throws from one side to the other of the field? The other thing is on his layered throws, which Purdy's great at when he's healthy. If you're sailing passes to safeties behind you and you can't score 26 points a game and you lose one of the next 3 games or 2 of the next 3 games, do you put Mac back in? Like, that's my concern. That if he isn't healthy enough and come the Cardinals game, hey, my toe hurts again, you go back to Mac and no harm there. But like, it just feels like there's a lot of hope here. And we're not really going to know until the Cardinals game happens, or we might be playing things week to week with Purdy for the rest of the season.
This 4-game stretch that looks so easy, I think they're going to go 2-2. And at the end of that 4-game stretch, he's going to have some kind of a recurrence. I doubt he could play more than a couple games without recurrence. And then I don't think he could stomach the pain of playing with like that for more than a week or 2. So I think my guess is he'll play this 4-game stretch going into the bye week. And I think they'll go 2-2. I really do. Wouldn't shock me if they lost this one. Really wouldn't, even though
really,
yeah. I mean, I know on paper this looks like a win, but this game, first of all, Shanahan's right. Almost all these games that Arizona's played this year have been really close. The Arizona Cardinals could have the same kind of record as the Niners. The Niners could have the same record as the Cardinals. They're not really that different. The first game was really close. It was decided by 1 point, right?
Yeah, the game winning field goal.
Yeah, I mean, it's just I just think it's the 49ers, what worries me is the Houston game. CJ Stroud was not playing well. The Texans offense did not look good. And they had Woody Marks and Xavier Xavier, what's his name?
Hutchinson.
Hutchinson. And then they had Jalen Noel and Jaden Higgins. Well, I mean, yeah, these guys have Michael Wilson and Greg Dortch and Trey McBride. So, I mean, could they beat the Niners with those 3 guys? Yeah, I think they can, especially if Niners get no pass rush and if Purdy, throws an interception because he's rusty. I mean, that right there, ball game. So it's like, I think this Arizona game, could be a blowout in the Niners' favor, but I don't think so. I think this is going to be, I think all of these quarterbacks that look so bad right now, the Dylan Gabriels and the Jacoby Brissetts and the Cam Wards, and, I think we're going to look up at the end of the stretch and we're going to be like, hey, those guys are pretty good, because everybody's pretty good if you don't put pass rush on them. I mean, it's really as simple as that. If you don't put any rush on Jacoby Brissett, it's like, they got their doors blown off last week by Seattle, but did you see them the week before in Dallas? They absolutely partied against the Cowboys in the Cowboys Stadium because Dallas couldn't get a whole lot of heat on the quarterback, and the quarterback carved him up. Now, that was Marvin Harrison Jr., Zay Jones. They don't have those guys now. But, if you told me that they threw 12 passes to Trey McBride, I wouldn't be shocked, and I wouldn't be surprised if he lit it up. So I think the Niners go 2-2 in this, what looks to be an easy stretch. I think they go 2-2. Purdy has a recurrence of the turf toe, and by the end of it, they come out of the bye week with Mac Jones. You're the guy. Then they'll ride the rest of the way with Mac Jones. And I do understand why they're going back to Brock right now, because these are winnable games. He wants to be on the field. It's his team. He's earned the right to do this the way he wants to do it. And if he can't manage the pain, he can't win these games, can't manage the pain, then they still have a chance to regroup and maybe get to the playoffs and maybe win a playoff game under Mac Jones. So that's kind of how I see that. All right, let's take the time. Let's go. 49er football season on the Krug Show is presented by Sleeper, the fastest growing fantasy platform in the world. It's a one-stop shop. You get blazing fast news, real-time stats, group chats, season-long leagues, and, of course, Sleeper picks for daily fantasy. When you choose between 2 to 8 players, pregame or live, and pick more or less on their statistical projections. And if you're new to it, use promo code Larry. You'll get a 100% deposit match up to $100 on your first deposit. The link is right there in the description. Terms and conditions do apply. All right. Now let's make a lineup. Let's get into it and make a lineup here. Let's see here. Let's get our sleeper thing on the screen. There we go. That's right. You get a 100% deposit match up to $100. Use code Larry, and we can make our sleeper lineup. Let me see. Kev says 1 sec. So he's gonna jump in the background and make our sleeper lineup. He'll go through it for us, and we'll pick a lineup. Quick thought on this game. What do you think? I asked Kubiak today, I said, is Ricky Pearsall on a pitch count or a snap count or what? He hasn't played in a long time. We're talking about almost 2 months since Ricky played, and it's funny. Ricky was like, I've never been hurt. I've never been hurt hardly in my career. It's like, okay, fine. But you've been hurt this year. And it seems like durability seems like it's the issue. I don't think anybody thinks he can't play. I think everybody can see that he can play. It's not about whether or not he's good enough to play in the NFL. I think he is good enough. I think he's got good enough hands, good enough route runners, smooth enough. I think we can see the talent there. The question I have, and I'm sure some other people have, is his job is to operate kind of in the middle of the field, and those guys take big, big hits. And, I know they drafted him with the idea of like he's their Puka Nacua, but Nacua gets smoked and can take those hits. He's got a really strong body, and he can take a lot of punishment. Pearsall doesn't look like he can take nearly that much punishment, and yet they play kind of the same spot. They kind of do a lot of the similar things. You want rub routes and shallow crossers and in breakers, and it's just like you're doing a lot of work in the middle of the field. You got to have a certain level of toughness, and I know he was shot, and that's one level of toughness. But I'm not really talking about that. I'm talking about more like durability, physical durability. Is Ricky Pearsall going to be durable enough to be, to fulfill his potential? I mean, we can all see the potential. It's there.
Yeah, I think, the one thing that does give me some confidence in Pearsall being able to maybe stay healthy, whether it's this year or the rest of his career, is that my recollection, I don't remember when he initially hurt his knee, but when he re-injured it against the Jaguars, he was falling out of bounds. So it wasn't a play over the middle of the field. So that does give me a little more, I guess, confidence that he'll be able to play over the middle. I also don't think that Pearsall needs to be, Puka Nacua. I think, if he's Cooper Kupp or he's Tyler Lockett to the team, and albeit those aren't, exact one-for-one comparisons, I think that, you have Kittle, you have Christian McCaffrey, you have Juwan Jennings for now. I think they can operate with those guys being the middle of the field targets. And if they ever get Brandon Ayuk back, we'll see. But I think that Pearsall, at least I believe that he can stay healthy. At least I hope he can, obviously. But I think really what you want for Ricky is, can you just sit in soft zones over the middle and not take hits? Like, I don't mind you not being a yak, bro. Just fall down. I don't need you fighting for 2 extra yards and everything. Because he's such a smooth route runner, he can almost break away from any cornerback in the middle of the field. So I think for him, it's just more about, can you avoid big hits like quarterbacks can at times and get down and whatnot, but also just get in soft zones and go down. Guys can be just as effective doing that in the NFL. You saw with Golden Tate. Lockett did it for a long time. Doug Baldwin was a just god at doing those things in Seattle. And I think Ricky should really try to mold his game into what the Seahawks with Legion of Boom were doing offensively. Just get down, don't fight for extra yards. You don't have to, and let fight the next down.
All right. What do you think statistics wise in this game? Let's talk about some of the players in this Niners Cardinals game. What do you think for Ricky?
Well, if he's on a snap count, he probably has like 3 catches, 5 targets, and probably 45 yards. That feels good to me. Like not too big, not too small.
The guy that I would want to put money on in this game is Trey McBride. Trey
Yeah.
McBride. I mean, no Zay Jones, no Marvin Harrison Jr. You got to throw the ball to somebody. Dortch is kind of a specialty guy. So who's going to get the ball? I think Trey McBride's going to have over 20 targets in this game. I think
gonna be a lot.
I think it's very realistic. He could have 20 targets. And can the Niners cover him? I mean, that's the question. I mean, how can they cover Trey McBride? Or is he going to have just a day for the ages? I mean, that's the question I would have. All right, let's take a look at some of these. Let's look at McBride. Let's look at McBride here and see what McBride's stats look like. You can go anytime touchdown. That's pretty good. You can go 75.5 receiving yards. That's pretty good. I like the 7.5 receptions more than 7.5 receptions. I think he's a lock for more. And I would take the anytime touchdown too. I want the touchdown up here as well. So I would go double McBride's because he's just fantastic. I mean, he really is good. One of the most underrated players in football. Nobody, you could, if you said, hey, who are one of the greatest receivers in the game today? There'd be all kinds of guys would be named before anybody would say, well, Trey McBride. Don't you think? I mean, it's just
he's phenomenal. He is a guy that I think even when your best player's out, like he is very Travis Kelce like, where he's going to get the football 8 times a game and he's going to beat you mostly 8 times. And his stats may not reflect that sometimes, but he is their offense and always really has been since he's been there. And he's paid like it too now. Like he's the highest paid tight end in football, I believe. So, and it's earned. He is a tremendous player. And I think Brissett, knowing he doesn't have weapons around him like Marvin Harrison Jr. and Zay Jones, you probably don't trust Michael Wilson too much, and you don't love Greg Dortch. So McBride, Bethune's not great in coverage. Neither is Winters. So it could be a long day for San Francisco's defense.
Yeah, I mean, if you have Trey McBride in fantasy, you're going off. How about Brissett? What do you think of Brissett? Let's take a look at Jacoby's numbers because, he's an interesting guy. He looked great against Dallas. The offense, I think, definitely operates more efficiently with him than it does with Kyler.
Yes.
But, he does hold the ball a lot. He takes sacks.
Yeah.
There's a lot of negative plays with Jacoby Brissett. And yet the Niners can't put any real rush on him. I think, the Niners don't get interceptions, but is this the game they get one? Or do you like him going for more than 236? It's not going to run.
I think, it's tough because when pressured, Brissett has 5 turnover-worthy plays this year, and he holds the ball 3 seconds a snap.
Yeah.
Like, that's a lot. And so it's like, I think this may be the game San Francisco gets a pick. They dropped a couple against the Rams. I think against the Cardinals, the worst team, the defense will probably bounce back in some form or fashion. I'd probably take the pick. He's not turnover-worthy prone. San Francisco would kind of need one to probably win this game.
Niners have 1 pick, by the way, but let's go with it. Let's go with it anyway.
So bad.
So we'll go Brissett with a pick. Now we got to pick a Niner. Who do we want? You want CMC? You want Kittle? You want Eddie Pinheiro? I think Eddie Pinheiro is going to definitely have to make 2 field goals.
Yeah.
Or do you think Brock scores touchdowns in the red zone? Maybe.
Well, that was going to be one of my questions. We know the Cardinals are probably going to want to bring some pressure on Brock early, test that foot, see what he can do, and kind of assess where his toe is at. I think you're going to see a lot of screens and quick games to Kittle and Tungus and Christian McCaffrey. Like I think it'll be a lot of quick stuff really to kind of evade and to alleviate the pressure off Brock's toe, where I think Christian McCaffrey is going to probably score 2 touchdowns in this game.
Okay. You want to take a look at McCaffrey or Purdy's stats?
Well, let's see Purdy's stats and we'll see what sleepers saying they're going to be.
All right. Let's see what Purdy's got. Let's see what Purdy's stats look like. Okay. So you've got 251.5 passing yards. You have 36.5. What is that? Is that rush yards? 35.5?
That's longest completion.
Longest completion. Interception. You got 30. Is that 32 and a half
passing attempts?
Passing attempts.
And then 22 and a half completions.
I
kind of feel like the touchdown might be a lock, or the interception might be a lock with the toe.
Yeah, I think so too. Give me an interception.
Yeah.
I think an interception, more than a half on on that. Yeah, I'll say this. He's the one thing I really didn't like seeing. It just felt like there wasn't a lot of zip on the passes. I could see him throwing a lot of corner routes into the void where it goes to your guy or drops incomplete, but where you got to stick it in there, like the deep cuts, the intermediate cuts, the out pattern, where you really got to shoot it to the sideline and you got to get it in a tight window. There's just a loop to his ball right now because he doesn't have the strong right leg base. That doesn't look right to me. Now, what do I know? I know. I'm not saying I know. I'm not trying. Oh, more than Robert Saleh. More than Kyle Shanahan. I know how that comes across, but I'm just telling you my honest opinion.
Yeah.
I was at practice. I saw the ball. Now, granted, it was raining, but I mean, I saw the ball come out of his hand this week, and it has a little bit of a loop, and I'm seeing a guy who doesn't really bury that right foot into the ground. And it doesn't have that same base. That's what I see.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know. Yeah. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm not seeing it right. Maybe they are seeing it better than me, and he's going to go out there and play. God knows this Cardinals team is not very good. They spotted this spot to get him in because they really want him to be successful. But I think the underrated part of this game on Sunday that nobody's talking about is that Arizona's defensive line is going to beat the 49ers offensive line. Sweat and
Nolen, Calais Campbell,
Dalvin Tomlinson's really, really strong. Who's the other outside linebacker outside of Sweat?
Is Reddick there? Or is he in Tampa Bay? He's in Tampa Bay.
Yeah, who is it? Browning.
Browning. Yeah.
Browning's in concussion protocol, so he may not go. But if he can go, I mean, that's a defensive line, especially with Walter Nolen added to the mix.
Yeah.
That I think, Calais Campbell in the first matchup absolutely dominated. And now he's got Walter Nolen and Sweat's playing well. I just think Arizona's defensive front is going to give the Niners offensive line a lot of problems.
I do think having Barch and Burford probably helps because it was Connor Colby the first time, and Pooney has been playing better as of recent. It seems like he's healthier.
Yeah.
I will add this, though, that the Cardinals are averaging 2 takeaways per game the last 3 weeks. So probably fends or it leans somewhat in their favor in regards to getting one this Sunday as well.
You got to run the ball. They have no Mac Wilson. You got to run the ball at them and not throw so many passes. All right. Do we have our lineup or do we go in one more here?
We have the Purdy INT, the Brissett INT. We got the McBride receptions.
I thought we had 2 McBrides, didn't we? I thought we were going McBride anytime touchdown too.
Yeah.
Let's go McBride anytime touchdown. All right, let's go 4 for 4. Let's see what it looks like. So if we go those 4, 5 to win 34-05. Brissett with a pick, McBride with 8 receptions, McBride with a touchdown, Purdy with a pick. It's easy to remember. So we need both quarterbacks to throw a pick, and we need McBride to have 8 receptions and a touchdown. I think that looks good, man. I think that's live. $5 wins $34.05. So thanks to Sleeper. Big thanks to Sleeper. Remember, use code Larry for 100% deposit match up to $100. Links right in the description. Terms apply. Help support the show and gets you rolling on the #1 sports app, and it's a ton of fun. Thanks to Sleeper for being a proud sponsor of the Krug Show. Is Brandon Ayuk going to play at all this year? And I bring this up because Lynch said, hey, he's not ready yet, and there's only 6 weeks. It's only 7 weeks left of football, and there's only 6 games left, right? After this game. this weekend, and he's not coming back this week. And I mean, it just seemed like when the discussion came up this week, they're like, well, we might bring him back. I mean, our intent is to bring him back, but it just doesn't seem like it's going to happen. It just doesn't seem like it seems like they're going to run out of real estate. Like if you told me, like I thought one of the more interesting little tweets that I read this week, and I didn't get a chance to ask Lombardi about it, but Dave Lombardi put out a tweet that caught my eye. And it basically, what he was saying was that Ayuk's surgery or his injury, he suffered it on October 20th of 2024, week 7 against Kansas City. He had the surgery about 2 or 3 weeks later because of the swelling didn't go down. He tore 3 ligaments. Now, Lombardi put out a thing saying that the range to heal from a typical 3 torn ligaments in one knee kind of injury with that scope is like 12 to 18 months rehab. So my first thought is, then what the heck was that he might come back week 1 story? That was just crazy talk. So basically, we're at right now 12 months from surgery. So he could still be, according to Dave's estimates, as much as 6 months away. There's only 6 weeks left in the regular season. So, I mean, if I were his agent or I was his relative, this was like my close personal friend, I would say to him, hey, man, sit it out. Sit it out. It was a devastating injury. Get right. You'll be so much better if you take more time. Don't rush this thing. Give it plenty of time. If he were 35, I'd say, get back out there. Get back out there. But he's not. He's like 27, 28. He's got his whole future ahead of him. I don't know what kind of future it's going to be, but any kind of a recurrence of this injury would be devastating and maybe career threatening and maybe career ending. So I think you take care of the player and you do right by the player and screw this year and what it means. Now, it makes it easier to say that because Bosa and Warner are already out, and you're already kind of, and you also have other receivers that you could lean on that you don't have to have them come back. But I just think the right thing is, especially since you're already at week 10, week 11, it's like, why not? Because also everybody's been playing since July, and it's going to be like your training camp. Seems like it's really a area that would be ripe for you to get hurt again. I think unless something miraculous happens, I don't think he's going to play. Now, other people I know, Sterling, think that the Niners are intent on trading him and that they will spot him in week 17 or 18 to demonstrate to the rest of the league this guy still can play, come make your offer, and that he'll be traded in the offseason. I can understand that reasoning, especially if that is the plan. But I hope they're very circumspect with his return, because it's clear they're not rushing him. But what do you make of this timeline? And do you think now we're at a point where maybe just forget about 2025?
Yeah, when you heard John Lynch this morning on KNBR, it didn't sound very promising, right? It kind of sounded like, we're hoping he can return. The plan is for him to return, but reality maybe soon setting in with the fact that, Brandon Ayuk may not be seen at all in 2025. Now, maybe there is an optimist in me that we will see him at some point. I really am kind of hoping we do. I love BA. He was phenomenal when he was healthy. That said, it just seemed like that. I mean, really, if I was him, I wouldn't want to play if I'm not healthy enough. And I don't think I can put my best on the field. Now, maybe there is something to what you're saying of getting out there week 17, 18, and that, maybe he can show something or have like limited reps and kind of just get his feel back about how the NFL games are like and get some live reps. I do wonder, though, because let's talk about the whole trade Ayuk thing, contract, kind of, what that looks like next year with withdrawn. I do wonder, because we've heard a lot during the offseason of how somebody in that front office hated that deal, regretted that deal, didn't want to make that deal, and Kyle was kind of the one pushing to get that deal done. Right, runs up to John's office and says, no, don't trade him, he'll sign now. I do wonder if there might be a push by the front office to get him on the field so they can trade him. Ayuk may say no, and I don't know how that looks from the outside in and everything, but I do wonder if the front office is that bad a shape about the Ayuk contract and they're looking for ways to get out of it. I think it is in San Francisco's best interest to force him to almost play if you can do that. Now, he may say no, and that can create further problems. I don't know how that looks in regards to his trade value. If he plays out there and he's bad, maybe it tanks it further. I'm not sure. But somebody in that room didn't like the deal. They made it known they didn't like the deal. They were at least listening to offers during this past offseason. They're probably going to do it again next offseason. So I do wonder that if maybe somebody in the front office is like, hey, BA, after week 14, the bye week, we want to see you out there. The window's open. If you can't, we'll see it. But 2026, you ain't going to be in San Francisco. So suit up now and let's get our draft picks in return. I do wonder if that may be at play at some point this year, but that may be more in the conspiracy theory aisle, which I don't tend to rest my head in, but I do think it is part of this.
It's interesting. It's funny. Grant asked a question today to Kubiak. Hey, if Mac Jones doesn't play anymore, what was his tenure here like? It was like Kubiak was like, no, bro. It's like, Kubiak wanted no part of it. Yeah. He's like, I don't think like that at all. I mean, he's backing up and he's still here and he could easily play, It's like, it was so pushing the cart before the horse, but it's one of the reasons I love Grant. He can ask some questions like that. And obviously Kubiak pushed back. But this is undeniably the year of the reclamation quarterback, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, look at this year. Across the board. Mac Jones in San Francisco, Daniel Jones in Indianapolis, Baker Mayfield in Tennessee, Sam Darnold in Seattle. We're seeing, the reclamation project quarterback, kind of come out of nowhere and look pretty good, across the board. And now we're seeing Jacoby Brissett look better in Arizona than Kyler Murray. And there's an awful lot of talk about Murray's future, and they may release him because of his contract, so on and so forth. Let's just say that Mac Jones said to the Niners, hey, you know what? I gave you a really good year. I saved your season without Brock and played really well here. How about you find a team that you like and, flip me for a day 2 draft pick or two? Huh? Do me a solid. I didn't mind backing up this year. I said all the right things and I played as hard as I could, but how about you get me somewhere where I can maybe compete to start? Because this is Brock's team, and you're right. Let's just say he said that to them, which is totally reasonable. And they said, okay, Mac, we'll do that. We'll satisfy you. We'll find a team for you. And let's just say they did. They find a team. They get a day 2 pick. And now the 49ers want to go into next year, and they want to look for another, quarterback then they can rehab. Which quarterback, starter, backup, which quarterback would you want to see if you could pull a Sam Darnold to Mac Jones and try to rehabilitate him somehow, some way? I mean, we're seeing backup quarterbacks get opportunities. I mean, Marcus Mariota has gotten an opportunity. Now Brissett's getting an opportunity. There's young quarterbacks around the league, Tanner McKees and the Trey Lances. There's guys who have kind of bombed like Justin Fields and Zach Wilson and Anthony Richardson. And, there's a number of quarterbacks that are, and then there's veteran guys who could be reclamation projects like a Kirk Cousins or somebody like that. What do you think? If I said to you, Mac Jones wants to go somewhere else, and you're Kyle Shanahan looking for another reclamation quarterback next year, Who are you intrigued by?
If it was possible, I would love Spencer Rattler in San Francisco. I think
That's
he's a
interesting. I hadn't thought of him.
I think he's a darn good player. I think you have to make a trade for him, obviously, but if the Saints are looking towards, if they're drafting a quarterback or if Tyler Shugg plays, good football to the stretch, maybe he's a guy for the next year. They do have Curtis Rourke in the building as well, so maybe he takes Mac Jones' spot when it's all said and done.
That's a good name too.
I will say this. There's a guy in Green Bay backing up Jordan Love right now. And I really would not mind getting Malik Willis in this building.
That's another interesting name.
Like, he's mobile in the time, and I know it's a different style of offense, and that may not fit what Shanahan likes to do, but if LaFleur can make that work, I think Kyle can really make things work. Had time to grow, has his head on right. I don't think the NFL is too big for him. So I think if, a trade target, Spencer Rattler, but free agent guys, I mean, why not, Malik Willis, who, high-end draft pick a couple years ago from Tennessee, gets kind of shoved away because they're doing things over again, and now Green Bay backing up Love, and he knows the offense to some degree, kind of playing it in a variant of it in Green Bay. And again, Shanahan may say no way to Willis, but I think it would be kind of fun to watch. I also don't think San Francisco would even entertain trading Mac Jones. I think he's more valuable to them than elsewhere, but I think those couple of names would be who I'd target at least if he does and did get traded this offseason.
I'd be super intrigued by Anthony Richardson just because for how big and fast he is. He would be very intriguing just to see, could Shanahan turn Anthony Richardson into something? That's one that kind of interests me. I kind of like watching, and he's going to play again this weekend, is Davis Mills. Davis Mills is an athletic quarterback, and he's smart. He can run. There's some toughness there. Davis Mills would be interesting to me. I'll give you a couple more that I kind of like. I know this one's going to be kind of wild, but I've always would love to see what Jameis Winston would look like in a 49er uniform in Kyle's system. Jameis Winston has a big arm. Yeah. Jameis Winston, I don't know. It's weird. He seems more and more likable as time goes on. He would be a guy that I would be interested in. I'll give you another one. What do you think of Will Levis as a rehabilitation prospect?
Yeah, he's got a big arm. The big problem with him was just the accuracy and the decision-making, and I think Kyle can simplify that a big time for him. So if you like the archetype, you like the build of the guy, he's a big, strong dude, big arm. He's got some speed to him, mobility. I think that's a guy you can sign for 2 years, and maybe he sits the entire year, and hopefully Purdy doesn't get hurt again. I think that wouldn't be that bad of a fit whatsoever.
Another name that's kind of intriguing to me is Jalen Milroe, who's in Seattle. And I don't know, obviously Darnold has established himself there, but Milroe is an interesting name to me. Very athletic, a lot of potential, needs to be developed. All right. I want to share the screen and probably get dinged for playing this, but I want to play it anyway because it's really good. This was Coward going off on Mac Jones and how he thinks Mac Jones should play over Purdy. He's become kind of the anti-Purdy. But here it is. Here's a little Coward, and then we'll comment. Wait a second. There we go.
Shanahan, I've said this before, you don't want to justify things in pro sports. You don't want to justify draft picks or justify decisions. Just who's hot and who's healthy. For the Niners, the hot quarterback is Mac Jones. The healthy quarterback is Mac Jones. I would be in no rush to bring back Brock Purdy. Here's Kyle Shanahan on the Mac Purdy situation.
It's not a hard decision. It's just more about Brock's health. It's been awesome how Mac's played. He's been great. But we got a lot of confidence in Brock, and we know Brock will play at a high level too as long as he's healthy. That's the world. Anytime a backup quarterback comes in and plays good, that's all anyone talks about. I don't think anyone talks about what people have done in the past, whether it's Brock or whether it's anybody. That's just how the world works with media or anybody.
Okay, so here's how good Mac Jones has been without his number one receiver, Brandon Ayuk, without his number two receiver, Ricky Pearsall. Hasn't had them. So let's do a little blind resume. I'll put up Mac Jones's numbers and 4 categories I think are pretty important. He's completing 70% of his throws. He's averaging 270 yards passing, second in the league without Ricky Pearsall, without Brandon Ayuk. He's got 3 300-yard games, tied for first in the league, and his passer rating, pretty good, 97.5. That's good. That's a starter in the NFL. That's a BB plus quarterback. So let's put those numbers up. Those are real numbers. Multiple 300 games, 270 a game, 70% completion percentage, high 90s. Okay. So let's look at this first for our radio audience. This first quarterback is close, but it's just a tick in all the categories, just a tick less of a quarterback than Mac Jones. Who would this be? Justin Herbert. Now, Herbert is missing both his tackles, and he doesn't have Christian McCaffrey. Oh, Mac Jones is slightly better than Justin Herbert. All right, let's do it again. Let's go another one. I mean, Justin is missing both tackles. This quarterback, I mean, this is unbelievable. They're almost duplicates. And again, no Ricky Pearsall, no Brandon Ayuk. These guys are duplicates. So who is the doppelganger? Who is the duplicate of Mac Jones? Oh, Dak Prescott. 2 weeks ago, you had him as MVP. He's got CeeDee Lamb. You got George Pickens. Mac's doing it without a number 1 or a number 2 receiver. All right, let's do the next one. Well, this one is unbelievable. I mean, Mac is clearly better than this guy. Mac's got more first downs, more 300-yard games, more yards per attempt, more yards per game, much more accurate. Who is this stiff? Oh, it's Baker Mayfield, who's having a great year. Okay, Baker's having a very good year. All right. Well, we can do a couple more to prove my point. Let's throw another one up there. Here's another quarterback who, I mean, might as well be the exact same numbers. Mac's a little bit more accurate than this quarterback who has one more start. Who's this guy? Oh, Patrick Mahomes. Okay. Who's got, by the way, an array of wide receiver and tight end talent that I'm not sure anybody else in the league has. And Andy Reid. Okay. But hey, let's rush back old sore toe Brock Purdy. Let's go one more. There's one more quarterback. Again, the numbers are almost precisely the same. The difference is Mac wins. This guy's 2-6. Who's this guy? Oh, that's Brock Purdy's last 8 starts and Mac's last 8 starts. Very interesting numbers.
What do you think? Makes a lot. I mean, Cowherd kind of drives me nuts with his cherry picking stats and this and that, but he makes a lot of good points there. And I think what it illustrates is that Jones has played at a really, really high level, and he's done it with a 49er team. I know the thinking, the first thought is, oh, well, you know what? You know, Mac got to San Francisco and he's so much better supported, and that's why he's had this bust out. But has that been the case? Kittle was hurt. Ayuk has not played. Debo's gone. The line's totally mediocre. The defense is subpar. He's, you know what I mean? It's like, is he really being better supported, or is Mac Jones playing well and lifting up the Niners? I mean, who's lifting up the other more? Are they lifting him up or he's lifting them up? I would probably argue that he's lifting them up.
Yeah, I think I would agree with that. I think Mac Jones has played extremely well. I don't think you can be honest with yourself and say the opposite. I think Mac Jones has looked tremendous in this offense. I think he fits it like a glove. And I think that he's played like he looks like a legitimate starting quarterback in the NFL. He's looked better than he did in New England during his Pro Bowl year. And he looks better than he did with Jacksonville last season. I will push back on the stat comments because Mahomes didn't have Rashee Rice for 6 weeks. And Kelsey is slowing down. So the weaponry in Kansas City, I would say, is almost very similar, maybe a little better, but very similar to what they have in San Francisco now. Albeit Andy Reid can do some things that maybe Shanahan can't. But
it's Mahomes. So, I mean, it's like if you go up to every football fan, who's better, this guy or that guy, and one of the guys is Mahomes, it's like Mahomes. You know, he's like the guy. So that kind of, I wasn't necessarily looking for Mac to have better numbers. Just the fact that he's gotten in the same neighborhood statistical profile as Mahomes is pretty interesting.
I also think it's worth pointing out that while all those stats are really good and Mac has played good enough to get San Francisco to 6-4, I think at times, like against the Houston Texans, he was not the problem. Against the Rams last Sunday, he really wasn't the problem. It was the defense. The offense actually outscored the Rams from quarter 2 on in that game. Had it not been for a 21-point first quarter, who knows how the game goes. The Rams probably still win, but that was a lot closer game than we think the box score indicates. However, outside of Dak Prescott, he's averaging like 36 passes per game, that being Mac Jones. Like, it's easier to have 300-yard passing games when you're throwing the football 36 times a game. And it's not his fault. That's the way the offense is run because they can't run the football very well. And so maybe that makes it more impressive because you throw into guys like Jennings, who's been hindered all year, and Kendrick Bourne, and Sky Moore at times, and Jake Tunges. And like, I don't think you can take away what Mac has done. But I also think like other teams probably see that and are like, yo, I want that on my team. Like, that to me is where we get into the conversation of like, what do teams offer you for Mac Jones in the offseason? Is it a second? Is it a third? Is it worth saying yes to? So I think stats are misleading.
Just to jump in on that quick thought, you threw that out. What will teams offer you? The other thing you got to remember here is that, like, what would people, somebody like, what would somebody offer you for Brock Purdy? They're probably not going to offer you a lot because you've got Brock Purdy under contract for $53 million. But on the flip side of that, they might offer you a lot more for Mac Jones because you get 1 year look-see at him at $7 million. So that's a great price for a starting quarterback for 1 year. And it's a really great price when you think about you've got a year to figure out, do you want to extend him? So it's like you can acquire, it's like you almost get it in two steps. You get to acquire the player, then you get like a 1 year kind of audition at $7 million. And if the guy totally played awful, you don't have a big commitment. So it's like a very popular move to your owner. You say to your owner, hey, we want to go for this quarterback. Oh man, what's it going to cost us? Hey, lucky us. It's only going to cost us $7 million this year. Yeah. But then at the end of the year, if we want him, we have to sign him then. Oh, you know what? I like that. So I kind of think that whoever represented the 49ers in the Jones negotiations, I would love to know, did Jones's agent push for the second year because he wanted the continuity, or did the Niners push for the second year so they maybe would have a valuable tradable asset? Because ultimately that's the way it's worked out, is that the 49ers have this guy under contract for $7 million, and he looks like minimum like he would fetch you a second-round pick.
I think that is part of the conversation. Like, how do you balance okay, we can keep Mac for 2 years and lose him for maybe a third-round compensation pick if somebody else wants to pay him. We can trade him away now for a third-round draft pick. I don't think there may be a team offering you a second-round draft pick. Like, I could see the Pittsburgh Steelers saying, hey, we're losing Aaron Rodgers in the offseason. We don't want to pay for a big-name quarterback like Kyler Murray, and let's get Mac Jones in here for 1 year.
How about the Raiders? The Raiders, not only that, but you got an older head coach. I think Lenore Sellers is super intriguing, but you know what? He's raw, man. He's really raw. And it's like, you can get him, but and he's got a laser of an arm. He's got crazy athleticism. But it's going to take a year or two. And it's like, does Pete Carroll have a year or two? Probably not. A guy like Pete Carroll might say, hey, you know what? I don't got time for Lenore Sellers. Give me Mac Jones.
Yeah. I think San Francisco is smart. It obviously saves them, but I also think Mac Jones is more valuable to San Francisco than he is other teams right now. He's saving their season. And I think they realize that Purdy's had a torn UCL, albeit a freak injury. Now he has turf toe. You hope in the offseason can clear itself up, but if he gets hurt again, has to have surgery, who knows what that's like during training camp next year and how things look. So I almost think that Mac Jones is more important or more valuable to San Francisco than other teams are. And I don't think they're not say willing, but I do think they'd be really hesitant to even trade Mac Jones for a third-round draft pick, if I'm being honest with myself.
I think it's it's gonna be like beauty in the eye of the beholder, right? Somebody's gonna have to. It's only gonna take one team to get you what you want. But I agree.
Yeah.
I think the 49ers may look at him and say, hey, we want more than a second round pick. And there may be nobody out there that says we were going to pony that up. And then the Niners could easily be like, well, especially if Brock continues to have physical issues. I mean, you've got a quarterback who knows your system and can lead your room. And that right there is gold. I mean, that's probably worth a second round pick, just having that. Just knowing you have a quarterback that's not old, that's not too high priced, that can run your system and can lead your room. I mean, that there's a lot of questions answered right there, and that's probably worth easily a second round pick. Two last thoughts. Give me your second half breakout player for the Niners. Who's going to break out in the second half of the year? These are probably the options as I see it. Robert Beal, Isaac Guerrero, Ricky Pearsall, Jordan James, Darrell Luter, Jordan Watkins, Brian Robinson, Adrian Martinez, if you want to go wild stab, Keon White, CJ West, Nick Martin, Sebastian Valdez. You can go off the you can order off the menu. Those are just the ones I came up with. Who do you think is your guy that you feel like has the best chance to have a second half breakout?
I feel like it's changed a lot because I think we discussed this a couple of weeks ago, and it was like, oh, I believe in this guy and that guy. And like, well, those guys are playing terrible right now, so I don't know what I believe, especially on defense. Yeah, Pearsall on there. I think it's pretty hard to, if he's healthy, to not buy in what Pearsall is offering you. I don't think Jordan Watkins will be active with Pearsall back, so I think it kind of stymies his growth, at least in live action reps. I think the easy guess is Pearsall there. But I also think that Keon White has had a couple of really nice reps as a pass rusher. So if you want to go on defense as well, they need him in a big way. So I'd probably say Keon White on defense.
Yeah, I think that's a good one. Bleacher Report did this, and they went with Keon White. And I think Keon White's a good guess. I like the Pearsall angle. I think that makes sense. I'm going to take a wild stab at Robert Beal. I'm at practice and they're just screaming and yelling at him, and he's got so much talent. They have no other edge rushers. They badly need him. He's got the job for the moment, and he's done some decent things as far as some pressures the last couple of weeks. I'm going to say Beal. They yell and scream at him enough that they drag out the talent out of him. I'll say somehow Chris Kasarik gets Beal to do something significant. Amazing stat that I heard today. Tatum Bethune has 60 tackles since week 6. It leads the NFL. He does not have a game yet this year where he hasn't had at least 10 tackles.
Wow.
What do you make of Bethune? I mean, leading since he stepped into the lineup, he is leading the NFL in tackles. That's pretty impressive. I'm not saying he's some all-world linebacker. He's got his issues in coverage. He's not perfect.
Yeah.
He's not there yet either, and he doesn't think he's there yet. He knows he hasn't arrived. But just as far as activity, production, showing up at the football, I mean, Sterling, that's spectacular, dude. I mean, to lead the NFL in tackles, every single team, there's not one player who's on a scald in a system that's just so perfect for them. This guy just stepped in for Fred Warner, and he's leading I mean, that's awesome. That's amazing too.
Yeah, and I think, tackles can sometimes be misleading. Like, take Blake Martinez, who used to play linebacker for the Packers and the Giants
a couple
bunch. Years ago. Like, he just was a tackle merchant because he wasn't aggressive. He wouldn't fill lanes. He would kind of wait for the play to come to him and then go tackle a guy. And he wasn't that aggressive. And so I think that tackles
where the tackles are, where they are.
Right. Whereas Bethune, he'll make mistakes because he is so aggressive. He'll evade his zones and evade his lanes and leave where he's supposed to be because he wants to be at the football so much. So I just think that where tackles can be misleading at times, I don't think Bethune's are. Now, obviously, you'd rather have some PBUs mixed in with those tackles, but I think it's really impressive for a 7th round, second-year linebacker to walk in, albeit have problems still, and is trying to kind of figure himself out at the NFL level on the fly of like, hey, Warner's out, get in the game against Tampa Bay, and let's, go from there. And there's been some bad, but when you see the tackle, the aggressiveness, the desire, the ability to be at the football where it does make those tackles feel more earned. I think it's a lot to like from Bethune to a point where they want to bring back Curtis Robinson next year and guys like that too. But Bethune does feel like he has so much more to offer than other guys on the roster currently.
We're going to hit some supers here. We got 6 or 7 supers, but I'm going to get one question. And this is, I'm not putting you on the spot. Cause I know you follow the draft and you follow college ball. Give me one player in college that you're super intrigued by. It doesn't have to be, it doesn't have to make sense. It doesn't have to be like, oh, they can get this guy. It can be somebody that is going higher in front of them, or just somebody that makes no sense. It doesn't have to be a position of need or anything. Just, is there a player in college? Because I did a mock draft the other day, and I was going through some of my notes on some of the half-season college football that I've watched. And there's a running back from Bama named Jamarion Miller, and he goes by Jam. They call him Jam Miller. He's about 220 pounds. Yeah. But he's just he's fast. I don't know how fast, but it looks like 4.3 or 4.4. But at 220, I mean, he's big and fast. Great athlete. Bama's got some real dudes. What's the guy's name? Jeremy, the receiver they have, is amazing. But Caden Proctor, the big offensive tackle, is amazing. But they got a guy named Jam Miller, a running back from Bama, who I just absolutely love. I think Jam Miller is going to be a really, really good NFL player. Is there a college player that intrigues you that you want to share with us?
Yeah, I think you've seen 2 guys come out recently out of Ohio State, JSN and Emeka Mbuka. Why not hit that tap again for a wide receiver? I know Ricky Pearsall is here, and you wanted to be the receiver 1, number 2. You don't know what the future of Brandon Ayuk is like, though. How about Carnell Tate from Ohio State? That dude is awesome. He didn't play this past Sunday, but if you can somehow get an Ohio State receiver in this offense with Kyle Shanahan, you've seen guys come out in recent years and just be instant impact players. Give me Carnell Tate. Ryan Smith's going early, or Jeremiah Smith's going early in the draft. If you can get Carnell Tate in the second, I mean, sign me up for that.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to be in the second, but yeah, I really like Carnell Tate.
Yeah.
Carnell Tate got big hands, terrific receiver. God knows the lineage of Buckeye receivers. The recent vintage have been fantastic, worth taking a shot on. And Carnell Tate is legit. Yeah, he's not the best receiver on his team, but he's one of the great receivers to come into the league in a while. Well, think about that for a second. 49er Red Zone says Jeremiah Smith. Yeah, Jeremiah Smith is just unbelievable.
Top 10 prospect for sure.
one of the great prospects to come along in quite a while. All right, it is time for our Habas Law supers, and of course brought to you by our good friends at Habas Law. They will fight to make it right. 1-800-INJURED. Thanks to Habas Law for being a proud sponsor of the Krug Show. And Omar and Tarek Habas are great guys. My dad always was a long-time attorney and told me, hey, the key to success in life is having the right attorney. So if you need someone in your corner, call the firm insurance companies hope you never call, and that's Habas Law. They will fight to make it right. Visit them on the web at habaslaw.com, HABBAS law.com, 1-800-INJURED. Once again, they will fight to make it right. Habas Law, proud sponsor of the Krug Show. And I also should tell you one more thing about Habas Law, because we do have a new reader here. We've got a new initiative for our friends at Habas Law. And the holidays are about warmth, connection, and home, but for too many in the Bay Area, food and shelter are not guaranteed. 1 in 3 people struggle to afford food. Thousands live without shelter. Families in crisis, kids going to bed hungry. The faithful always show up when it matters most, and our community needs that same heart. This November, join Habas Law supporting Martha's Kitchen, serving 200,000 meals every month to people who need hope. Let's feed more than ourselves, Bay Area. Visit marthas.kitchen.org. It's Martha's, MARTHAS-kitchen.org, and donate today. Habas Law, always fighting to make it right. Thanks to Habas Law for being rooted in the community, and so many of these initiatives they are behind, they are supporting, and I'm really proud to be associated with them. So once again, Habs Law, 1-800-INJURED. They will fight to make it right. Great PI attorneys. If you're ever in a bind, these are your guys. And thanks to Habs for being proud sponsors of the Krug Show. All right, let's hit our supers. And we got this one from Kles Limperio. He says, got my thank you video, Krug. Thank you. Love the shirt. So I posted on Insta today what you said about Brock looking sore and passes wobbly. Some guy said you only watch warm up and pushing quarterback controversy. I'm telling you what I see. I'm telling you what I see. Okay. There's a lot of haters out there. I didn't say that I saw anything but warm up, but I can tell in warm up what I see. And what I'm seeing is a quarterback that doesn't have a strong base and who doesn't have great arm strength. The accuracy, I think, is good. His mobility looks okay, but he still looks sore. But to me, the issue is the passes to the perimeter and down the field look a little loopy. But I will freely admit that I do only watch the warm-up, and we're not there for the practices. We're not there for the team portion of practice. But I'm not pushing a quarterback controversy. So, you know what? I don't know what else to say to that guy. Kles Limperio, hoping to make it to the meet and greet. Got to try some pig in a pickle coming from Hayward. Awesome, Kles. We're really fired up. Once again, whoever comes from the greatest distance will win a Krug Show prize of some kind. And it's going to be good. We'll decide what it is between now and then. Joseph Ernberg says, Brock throws 2 picks, then stepped on by Brendel. Oh, great. I love the positivity of Ernberg. You couldn't just throw 2 picks. He has to be stepped on by their crappy center. Sorry about that, Brendel. Josh B. Says, you go up 14, and that's enough to pull Brock, in my opinion. Wow. As soon as he falls into a 14-0 hole, here comes Mac Jones. Josh says, Lockett has only missed 3 games in 11 seasons by avoiding hits. Incredible.
Yeah. It's going back to the Pearsall conversation of just getting down in soft zones and not taking hits.
Yeah, you think about it. Tyler Lockett rarely gets blown up. Ricky Fells says, Ricky Fells became a YouTube member.
Nice. Awesome.
Welcome aboard, Ricky Fells. Tyler in the house. He said, watch Purdy get hurt next year, and they roll with Mac and use his injury history as a scapegoat to get out of the Purdy deal. Well, you know what? I mean, that's not. I mean, would it be a scapegoat or would it be reality? I mean, staying healthy. What's the Bob Myers line? The greatest ability is availability.
Yeah.
You got to be. Steve Young argued that Brock Purdy ought to just run out onto the field and just get out there, because if you're not in the huddle, you're not in the huddle. And I was like, whoa. And then now Steve is kind of dialing it back and is like, hey, I don't want to get involved.
Yeah, let's not talk about the quarterbacks now, even though you just did.
Yeah.
Steve.
But Steve knows that his words carry weight, and I think the last thing he wants to do is complicate things in any way for Shanahan in the slightest. Sterling, tell people about your channel, where they can find you, and where what your schedule is and putting stuff out, and if people are fans of you, where they can catch you and where they can track you down.
Yeah, if you we do things like this on Larry's channel. We do it on my channel as well, which is called 49ers Access. We do preview games, preview episodes for the games on Sundays, and reaction to games, talking about latest Niner news through shorts and through long-term videos just like this. You can also follow me on social media at 49ers_access is the X, 49ers.access is the Instagram. Talking Niners all day, all night, every day, every night. And this is what we do. Talking Niners with Larry on Thursdays and doing it by myself and other guys throughout the week.
Sterling does a great job, guys. Give him a follow. Hit like and subscribe on your way out the door. Tomorrow we're back. The grind never ends. I will get up. I'll sleep fast. I'll get up early. I'll be streaming tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. with Damon Bruce from Levi's Stadium. At 10:45, I'll stream with Chase Sr., also from Levi's Stadium. Shanahan will speak to us tomorrow at 1:25. Niner practice tomorrow at 12:35. You can catch me on KMBR with Copeland and Derek Papa tomorrow at 5:30. I'll be on KMBR for Niners Nightly tomorrow night at 6. And my guest will be Donnie Druin, who is the Arizona Cardinals beat writer for Sports Illustrated. So that's coming up tomorrow. We got a full boat tomorrow. Saturday morning, we go live at 9 a.m., a little Krug show live stream, and then Niner Forecast 10 a.m. on Saturday. And Jordan Elliott is going to stop by from NBC Sports Bay Area, and he does a nice job as well. All right, for Sterling, I'm Larry. Hit like and subscribe on your way out the door. Thanks to all of our sponsors, Pig and a Pickle, Sharp Corner Sports Cards and Collectibles, Claw Daddy Arcade, Sleeper, and, of course, Habas Law. Thanks to all of them. Thanks to all of you. And until next time, peace.
Yeah, never met a man I've been scared of.